Welcome everyone to this quick tutorial on getting started with QGIS. Now I'm designing this tutorial for my digital terrain analysis class, so there may be some stuff that's specific to that course, but if others can get some use out of it, that's great as well. So the first thing that we're going to do is start up QGIS, and I'm on Windows, so in my Start menu, in Windows, I'm not sure about Mac, there are two versions of QGIS Desktop that you can start. The first one you can see here is QGIS Desktop. In my case, I'm using 3.16.3. But there's another version of it that includes GrassGIS, which gives us access to a lot more geoprocessing tools. And so where that lives, on Windows at least, is down in the OSGeo4W folder. So you can go in here, and what we're looking for is QGIS Desktop 3.16.3 with GrassGIS. And that's the program that we're going to launch in order to get access to all of our geoprocessing tools. Now, easy to just search for this as well. QGIS, and in my case, since this is the one I use, it's the one that pops up, but you can search for this one with GrassGIS, which is the one that we want to use. So we'll launch that. The splash screen takes a while to load since it's loading up Grass or Q with all of the Grass plugins. And so this is the window that you will see by default is the basic layout. And the key windows here are the browser window here on the left, which gives us access to all of the folders on our computer so that we can access and create data sets. The lower left here is the layers window, and so this is not unlike ArcGIS. The layers window displays all of our different layers in our map and gives us access to properties like symbology and other things. The main window here that pops up with news and project templates will become your map, so that's the main window. And then I, by default, have the processing toolbox open, and so this is all of our different geoprocessing tools that we can use. This may or may not open by default the first time you open QGIS, but it should remember once you have opened it so that you don't have to reopen it every time. If you don't have the processing toolbox by default, it's a fairly easy process to go up to the processing menu on the top and open the toolbox. And now you can adjust the size of this. You can make it bigger or smaller. I usually try to keep it fairly small to not take up too much screen real estate, but that's where our geoprocessing tools will live. So the first thing that you always want to do in a QGIS project is set up the project's default coordinate system. Now this is kind of a little bit different than ArcMap in that usually ArcMap doesn't assume a coordinate system, and Cube to some extent doesn't either when you first add data. But it's a good idea and good practice to just add a project coordinate system as the default project coordinate system for all of your geoprocessing later on. And it just kind of makes your life a little bit easier. So the way that we get to the project coordinate system is through the project menu and properties. And then usually it will pop up with the what's called the CRS tab here, the Coordinate Reference System tab already selected. So in the CRS window, once you use QGIS a little bit, it will give you a list of recently used coordinate reference systems up here in this top half of the screen. And those are recent ones that you've recently used or commonly use. And so once you get using this a little bit, those will populate and you can use those as quick shortcuts. If you don't have any up there, or the one that you're trying to aim for isn't up there, you'll have to go down into this list on the bottom half, which is all of the predefined coordinate systems that QGIS has built in. Now, just like ArcMap, this is a huge, huge list of all the available coordinate systems that are kind of available widely. And so that's kind of a pain in the butt to have to kind of search through manually. And so generally what I use is the filter search toolbar here at the top. And the easiest way to put in here is just starting with kind of the projection or the coordinate system that you're looking for. So a popular one for kind of base level GPS data is WGS 84. And so down here in the predefined coordinate system, now we have access to kind of all of the ones that have WGS 84 kind of in the title. Now, what you'll notice is that there are a lot of them down here. And so you do need to kind of know which one is appropriate for the data set that you're using. In this case, what you can actually reference is the EPSG number over here, which is a set of codes for these different projections and coordinate systems. And so for just a base base GPS data that's in WGS 84, generally we use this EPSG 4326 projection or coordinate system. So if you wanted to search for something like a UTM zone projected coordinate system, which is something that I use a lot for a lot of my data analysis, easiest way to do that is just to say UTM space zone and then the zone space and then a zone number. So 10 being the west coast of the US, 15 being kind of the Midwest, or kind of 18 being kind of the East Coast. So once you have in your UTM zone, you can go down to the predefined coordinate systems and get access to all of the UTM zone 10 coordinate systems. So things like NAD83 or NAD83 2011 is a popular one for GPS transformations, or down to a WGS 84 UTM projection. And once you have the projection that you want, it'll give you a little overview window of kind of where that projection or coordinate system is valid. And then the window here on the left gives you kind of the properties or the parameters of that projection. Now, most of the time you won't worry about these, but if you are interested in what those parameters are, they do show up there in the window there. So once you've selected your coordinate system, you can go ahead and say apply and OK. And that sets the default coordinate system for your project. Now, to add data, there are a series of kind of add data tools over here on the left hand toolbar. So there's add vector layers, add raster layers, mesh layers. You can add comma delimited or delimited text files if you've got data outside of a normal geospatial data format. There's other things in here as well, spatial lights, post-GIS layers, web mapping services. So all of those are over here on the left. The other and kind of more easy way to do that is just to kind of navigate in your browser to the folder that has your data in it. So I'm just going to go to my GIS data folder and pick some random data here. I'm going to go ahead and use just a base map layer. So we'll go in here and just put in our administrative data. So in your browser, what you can see is the different kind of icons for the different types of data. So the little blob shape here is for a polygon layer. The little checkerboard is for rasters. If you had line data, it would show kind of a line vector icon there. And so all you have to do is you can either click and drag this down into your layers, or even double click it will automatically add it. And so now we have that data set in our main window. So if you want to change the symbology or get to the properties of that layer, if you right click on it, you can get to properties, and this brings up a big window with It's not unlike, again, ArcGIS in kind of that layer properties window that Arc has. So you can get information about the layer itself, its source, so where it's coming from. Symbology is important. If you want to add labels or masks, you can look at the fields. So those are all of the attribute fields that are available. Lots of different options in here. So symbology is probably the one that you're most likely to use. And so in here, you can do complex symbologies or basic symbologies, but they're all basically here. So in this case, we have just a fill. So if I want to change the color here from a gray to something different, we'll make it a light blue, or let's go green for land area. So there's a couple of different color pickers in here. You can sample colors from other things. Have access to HSV and RGB and opacity if you want to change the kind of transparency of it. But you can pick a color, say OK, apply, and OK, and that changes the color of your fill there. Let's say you wanted to change the outlines of a polygon fill. You actually have to go in another layer here into the simple fill. And here you can see the fill color, the fill style. So this you can actually change to different fill styles. Usually you want to keep that on solid. And then the stroke color is the edge color. So let's just make it something hideous so that we can see it. You can change the width of that line as well. So in millimeters, points, pixels, meters, map units, inches, you can pick your reference measurement there. Usually do points or millimeters is usually a good place to start. You can do dashes in here as well, which is good. And so once you have that set, you can apply and OK, and that changes the symbology. So fairly straightforward on symbology changes. So a couple of quick navigation elements, and these are basically the same in just about any GIS package, but if you left click and drag on your mouse, that will just pan the data frame around, and then you can use your mouse wheel to zoom in and out. Up on the top toolbar here, there are zoom in and out tools, so you can do, it's called a marquee zoom with a little magnifying glass. If you want to zoom in on something very specific, you can use that tool. There is a zoom full extent up here as well. So if you click on that, that'll take you out to the full extent of all of the data that you have in your layer window. Some other things are zoom to selection. So if you have something selected when you're editing or selecting through the attribute table, you can zoom to selected features. Another useful thing that Q has is a zoom last, so basically a back button and undo. So if you zoom into something and you didn't mean to, if you like bumped your mouse wheel and you needed to be at a very specific zoom, you can hit that zoom last and it'll take you back to where you were. The other thing, just like Arc, if you right click on a data set, you can zoom to that layer as well. So zoom to layer will take you to that layer extent, which is pretty handy. So we'll do a few more tutorials after this as well, but that should be a good place to get you started, and good luck on your first project.